it's not a lot of like pay per click. You're not doing
No,
SEO. You're not going on
no,
Facebook or Google. Okay.
no. Yeah,
Interesting. It's just
those.
old fashioned sales calls. All right, guys, welcome back to Niconomics. Today on the podcast, we had Chris Munn, the owner, founder of the Fairfield Group. He owns two facilities management companies. He has an offshore recruiting company. He has an entrepreneurial peer group that he owns and runs. He's from Detroit, worked on Wall Street, worked at a hedge fund, went into corporate M&A, and then he went into small business. And what you're going to get today is some insight into what it takes to run a business 100% remote. Chris doesn't work at any of his businesses. He runs them all remotely, and it's just fascinating. I think you're going to pick up a lot of tips and tricks on what to do. Here's my shameless plug. I do this podcast for free. My only question and request to you is to like and subscribe, share it with your friends. If I'm doing well, drop me a note. If I'm not doing well, send me a carrier pigeon. I just want to know how I can improve. So with that, let's hop into the show. All right. Chris Munn, welcome to Niconomics. Stoked to have you here today. I even wore a golf shirt for you because I knew you love golf so much.
I do.
I've already given your introduction before this, so I'm just going to hop into it, and I want to ask one question. What is bugging you the most about Twitter right now?
The lack of value that I find from it
Lack
mostly.
of value? Okay.
Yeah, I was thinking this the other day. I saw two people post about how many impressions they had gotten. I was like, I wonder why they mentioned impressions. So then I click on the analytics, and the first thing is impressions. And so then I'm like, okay, so they're conditioning us to shoot for impressions, which on Twitter right now is not really a good sign of value. It's a sign of
No.
interaction and usually controversy.
So the anti-authority Chris Munn was like, "F this. You're trying to condition me to worry about
Yeah,
impressions.
no.
I'm not doing it."
I haven't posted a lot lately, but my thing is not, you can't track what I want to track. You have to do it manually, but it's bookmarks. How many people
Yeah.
bookmark my stuff? But you can see the bookmarks, but it's not like a stat that you can pull like the other ones. So,
I track it. I have a VA track it for me.
yeah, same. I track it. That's all I care about. I'm like, how many people are saying this is good enough that I want to come back to it later?
The other ratio that I really like to look at is, and I'll probably cut this out because most people don't give an F about Twitter right now, except people who are on Twitter. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The other metric that I really like is this metric that I track, which is impressions to follower.
Yeah.
So
That's a go.
a good ratio is like 1,500 to 2,000 impressions to follower.
Yeah.
If you start getting at like 10,000 impressions to follower, it's okay. You posted engagement bait. Cool. You got a bunch of eyeballs, but what did that give you? Nothing pisses me off more than having a tweet that goes viral, quote unquote, and I don't pick up any followers because I'm like, what was the point of that?
It's worthless. But the dopamine makes you want to do it again. So I get why people do it, but
Dopamine is real.
I don't want to read any more stuff about should you live in Florida or South Carolina. I don't give a shit.
All right. So you own several businesses. You have two commercial facilities management companies. You have an offshore recruiting company. You've got an entrepreneurial peer group, which is called is it Tenzi?
Tenzi, yeah.
Tenzi, yeah, which is doing well. But what I want to talk about today is your unsexy, boring business, facilities management company. Tell me in like the simplest terms, what does that business do?
Yeah, so I think the easiest way to explain it is most big commercial facilities have either a property manager or a facility manager who are responsible for the maintenance and upkeep of that building. And so we service those facility managers. So we try to complete maintenance and upkeep of commercial buildings.
Is that because most people who are in commercial buildings don't own the building and they're just leasing it? Or is it just a function of the industry?
Yeah, I think it's more of a function of an industry. So even like a big healthcare facility, right? Like they may not own the building, but like everything inside the building, they're usually responsible for. So the cleaning, the floors, high dusting, all that kind of stuff, like they are still responsible for, not the landlord per se.
Yeah, I've worked in healthcare, post-acute care. My brother-in-law owns a skilled nursing facility company, and that's a full-time position as a maintenance guy or facilities management. You aren't necessarily like placing people as a staffing agency. You're the people they call to do what? To do like weekly maintenance, or is it like heavy maintenance?
The way we get in the, I think our motto is the way we get in the door, we try to sell nightly cleaning services. That's the best way to get in. It's a hard way to get in the door,
Oh, okay.
but that's the best way to get in the door because when you are in a person's facility every day, they have a lot of trust that you can sell them other services that are much higher margin than the cleaning.
Okay, so dumb question. Why isn't it just called commercial cleaning? Why is it called facilities management?
Because we do more than cleaning, basically.
Okay.
So we have trucks on the road every day. We're out doing floor care, which is we strip the, like in the hospital, you've worked in that. We strip the wax off the floors and put the wax down. We do power washing. We replace basketball courts. Like we'll do any kind of maintenance. Some we subcontract, most we do in-house, but some people are just commercial cleaning, but we try to offer more because we think it makes us stickier.
How do you make money? So are these on subscription kind of agreements, or so you're in contracts with these people, they pay you every month and then you come out and provide services?
Correct. They pay us every month. We provide services, and then usually that's on the cleaning, and then usually on the upsells, it's usually one-time revenue, which is a little bit more chaotic operational wise,
Yeah.
but the margins are much better.
What do contracts look like in that industry? Are you their sole provider, or can they go to somebody else? Obviously, they're going to use you for cleaning services, but for those other maintenance services, can they go to other people?
Yeah, they could go to other people usually, but our job is to make the facility manager as lazy as they can be. That's what we want. We want them to not shop around, not go to 8 different vendors for everything. And if it's big enough, sometimes it's like in the rules that they have to. Like if it's a $30,000 job, they might have to bid it out. Yeah. But if it's $5,000 worth of work here, $12,000 there, sometimes they won't bid it out. They'll just call us.
So like you're a super smart dude, worked on Wall Street, corporate M&A, worked at a hedge fund. Most recently you worked at I think I remember, it was a pipeline company. Pipeline. You were buying other companies. Why the freak did you buy a facilities management company on the other side of the country?
Yeah. I'm passionate about business services. Like all my businesses are business service businesses. So I'm sticking in that niche. Why across the country? I just want to buy a business in basically a red state that was growing because they're the most business friendly. And California is not red or growing. And it's hard to do business here.
Orange County.
So I would not, Orange County is definitely red for sure. So I would not want to live in a red state that's growing. But I do want to do business there. I figured if it's growing and I'm just keeping it afloat, at least I'll be like the worst bartender at spring break. I'll still come out making some money.
It's a great thesis, man. Yeah. How do you find customers? So with this company in particular?
Yeah, so cold calling, cold email, dropping in. Like we can find what the big buildings are through like real estate data. So we can see, hey, and the bigger the building, the bigger the contract. It's pretty simple and straightforward. But like getting those relationships is like a really long process because we have a really long LTV with our customers. Like we just lost a customer. I got an email a couple of days ago. We lost a customer and the letter read, we are discontinuing services from the original contract dated October 23rd, 2000. So we've had the customer for 24 years, but it's like lawn care or your snow guy. As long as they don't do a bad job and as long as they're not charging 3 times market, you probably would never get rid of them. Yeah, so it's hard to get in the door. But once you're in the door, they can last a long time if you provide good service. So a bunch of cold call, cold email, and dropping it.
It's not a lot of like pay-per-click. You're not doing SEO. You're not going on Facebook or Google. Okay. Interesting. It's just old-fashioned sales calls.
It's old-fashioned because I think people want the services so infrequently that, maybe they'll go on Google, but more than likely you want to be the person that they think of before they even would click on Google. Oh, those guys came in here the last 3 years. Let me give them a call.
We're going to get back to the show in 1 minute, but I just wanted to tell you about today's sponsor, which is me. Oh, it's me. I'm sponsoring the show. Yeah, because I'm doing this for free. Do me a favor, like and subscribe right there, right at the bottom. It's right there. Yep. Awesome. Thank you. If you're like an individual facility, your facilities guy probably isn't scrolling LinkedIn, right?
Correct.
Or he's not on Facebook.
Yeah, those are like,
looking for that.
That role is interesting because it really vacillates between very blue collar and very white collar. So like some of our contacts are super white collar. They work through email, they college degrees, they sit in the office. And some of our contacts are like the guys who walk around with 80 sets of keys on their hip. You can't reach those guys on LinkedIn.
It's Santa Claus. He's jingling and jangling down the hall.
Correct. That's exactly who it is. Yeah.
Dude,
The old grumpy guy that's walking
Yeah.
down the hallway. That's him. Yeah.
Oh man, I know those guys. So what does your team look like? I'm assuming you have a lot of techs in the field, but like back office, what does it look like? Or I guess before I ask that, how big is your business if you're willing to share?
Yeah. We do about 4 million in revenue right now. We have a lot of employees because we have low skilled labor.
Mm-hmm.
So techs in the field, we probably have 40, and like office staff or management staff, we have 8, some offshore, some onshore.
For your office staff, 8. Do you have a sales team?
We have 3 people on the sales team. Yep. 3 sales, two back office, and no, I'm sorry, 7. 3 sales, 2 back office, and 2 ops managers, like field managers.
Okay. I think it's interesting. You have an offshore recruiting company.
Like everybody else, yeah.
Yeah. Dude, it feels crowded because Twitter has a lot of them, but I actually think they're good.
It's not that crowded.
Do you eat your own dog food, so to speak?
Oh yeah, certainly. We hire salespeople to come in offshore cold callers. I use our services because I think they're really good. That's originally why I got involved with the offshore. I didn't start the offshore business. Parker and David and Amit started it and brought me on because I used the services and I was super impressed.
But you're the reason for its success. We can all be honest. Pavago wasn't going to make it on its name alone.
No, not the name wouldn't have rang out in the streets, but
at least you weren't called somewhere.
Could
be worse.
That was interesting. That was a lot of money to pay for a domain.
Yeah.
If you buy something for $50 million, you got to grow it, I'm sure.
So tell me really quick, what are the types of positions that you could outsource? Sales, cold calling makes sense to me, but what else do you have in your business that you're currently offshoring?
So all our back offices. So like everybody that does invoicing, AR, AP, that's all offshore. Accounting, yep, all that kind of bookkeeping. Then we have this part of the back office role. Now it would be separated out, but like customer success, making sure your customers are happy, following up with them, seeing what they need, making sure everything's done, because the ops managers are kind of field workers. They're going out, they're out every day.
Yeah. Yep.
And so they could use support in an office that's like on the computer all day because they're in the car. Almost like a traveling salesman would be in the car and he has to sit in the car for an hour to type everything in a CRM. Like we just try to make sure that they don't have to sit in the car and type in anything. Our back office is doing that.
When you say customer success, do you mean like account managers?
Yeah, similar to an account manager. Okay. Yeah, similar to an account manager where they would literally contact our people every week or so and just check in to see how things are going, making sure they're happy. Similar like software companies do.
Okay.
Yeah. If we don't have to have a physical person on the ground, then we can offshore it.
Are you somewhere else or are you at home?
No, I'm in my office. I had this made, but I had it made. I just had it made on Upwork. Have you ever watched The Wire?
No, I know what it is, but no, I've never watched it.
We're not talking anymore in the podcast.
Okay. Canceled.
Dude, it's the best show ever.
I know, man. I know.
But literally. I don't even I know. Everybody says, I don't watch TV. I literally do not watch TV. And I will watch The Wire like every year because it's that good. You got to get into it. But it's a scene from The Wire.
Okay. The problem is my wife and we got 4 kids under 10. And I literally was talking to my wife about this the other night. I'm like, we don't watch any TV anymore.
Yeah.
Like by the time the kids are in bed, like we just have a few minutes to catch up with each other.
Yep.
And then like we're out.
You ain't missing much.
Anyways.
Let's be honest.
Except for The Wire, apparently.
That show went off in 2007, so I know. You're past this date.
Tell me a little bit about, all right, 4 million top line, companies in your industry. What's like a typical gross margin? What's a typical bottom line? Yeah,
so there's 2 business models in my industry. So one is where you're you self-service, which means your employees do the actual work that you're contracting.
Okay.
Those margins can be anywhere between 15 and 25%, sometimes 30% if you're really good. Then there's the subcontractor model, which is all we are as a sales organization. We go out, we win contracts. And once we win the contract, we subcontract that work out to people who couldn't win this business on their own. So in those businesses, margins are super small, maybe 5%. Yeah, like 6%. So those can be like, so for instance, I looked at a deal a few months ago. They were doing like 23 million top line, and they were doing like 1.5 in EBITDA. And that's not that far from like where my business
That would stress me out, man.
Yeah, that's what I said
Stress
too.
me out.
But they only had 7 employees.
I get it. It still
Yeah.
stressed me.
It would still stress me out, right? Yeah, because you just have no control. I don't like not having any control over my service because we are a service business. And so I've thought about it a ton, but if I'm going to be in the service business, I want to provide good service.
Like I remember doing a lot of research when I first bought a business, and I was like, how much cash should I have on hand? Right? Because like you're making money and you're like, oh, cool, I got $500,000 in the bank. Maybe I should take a distribution, but then you don't think about working capital. And I remember Googling and looking, it was like 9 to 12 months of cash on hand is what a business should have. And I remember thinking back to my time working in healthcare where we had businesses that were doing 5% margins. And I started doing the math. I'm like, okay, let's just say out of $100, 50% is not controllable. So $50 is not controllable every single month. So you're telling me I need to have $500, $600 in reserve. Guess what? I make $5 a month. It's going to take me 100 months. Are you kidding me? I'm not going to take any distribution for 10 years. It just blows my mind. So when you have that thin of a margin business, it just freaks me out because I'm like, you just have no margin of safety.
No,
at all.
You have none. And the businesses in the space will act like that too, because you'll find if they get in a pinch, all they do is they pinch their subcontractors. Like it's shady, but because their subcontractors are usually like people who don't speak great English, so they can't go out and get the contracts themselves, but they have their own business and they do a good job. And so those big companies will just say, hey, we owe you 50,000, but we're paying you 35, and just let's make it work next month. And the subcontractor has no real recourse or doesn't know what the recourse is. So you get a lot of situations. Yeah, they get pinched for sure. Like I'm sure they're in cash crunches all the time. They have no margin.
My last operationally focused question. Do you know how much it costs to acquire a customer? You ever done that exercise? It's a little bit different, right? Because you're not using traditional channels.
So I don't know. So the business that I most recently bought, the facilities business, has been around like 23 years, and they never had a salesperson and never did sales. It's all referral. So we just implemented our sales stuff this year. Mm-hmm. So we've acquired maybe 4 or 5 customers so far, which is like a good clip for a business of my size. Like I said, because they're so sticky that if you're acquiring like a customer a month, you're doing a really good job. But I would imagine it probably costs between $2,500 and $3,500 to acquire a customer. So
this is like just a tangent question. I didn't ever even hear about CAC. That's not true. I heard about CAC. I never used CAC in the businesses that I ran because it wasn't traditional, like healthcare in particular. You're not getting patients who are clicking online. You have sales reps that go to the hospital. They build a relationship. The hospital sends you a referral. I just never thought in terms of customer acquisition cost. Yeah. Do you think that's a tech thing that has bled over to SMB Twitter?
Yeah, I for sure think it's a tech thing because they have to be they're not profitable, right? So they're burning through cash. So they have to realize what is our customer acquisition cost because they have to know how much cash burn they have. So it's very important. Where if my business is profitable, it's not something I'm thinking about as much. Now it is helpful because as I think about our LTV, it has helped me realize I could spend a lot more to get a customer than I do. So where I might have been cheap before, if I spent $5,000 and I haven't won a customer, or I spent $5,000 and I won one $500 margin customer a month, I might be like, that was too much money. But if my LTV on that customer is 60 months, then it's no, that's fine. So I think it has helped me reframe a little bit, but I do think it's overblown because we're profitable businesses where a tech company really has to like dial in their spend.
I agree. I think CAC is a very useful tool to help you understand and analyze your business and how you get customers and whether or not you're profitable in acquiring them. But there's like a huge emphasis on it, I think, in SMB because there's like a bleed over from tech.
Yeah.
All right.
Tech is not a good place to learn how to do business.
It's a good place to learn how to spend money.
Oh, for sure, it's a good place to learn how to spend money, and they do know how to acquire customers. Like they're very, like their marketing stuff is great on how to acquire customers. But like that, you can't take tech companies and be like, "This is how you should run a business." You will run out of money.
Especially the old boring businesses like you're running, right? Or healthcare, that they don't care about technology. The relationships that are being built are built person to person. They're not being built through Google Ads or pay-per-click or whatever. So.
Nope.
All right. I got some rapid fire questions for you.
All right.
What do you love about this business?
Stickiness of the customers and the ability to upsell, because we have so much, we see our customer every day. It's a rare business where you actually see your customer every day. So our ability to upsell and the trust that we have with the customer gets pretty deep. So I like that one.
What do you hate about it?
Revenue per employee. It's not a great revenue per employee business. So I have to manage a lot of people.
That's another metric I never thought about before getting in on SMB Twitter. Is that something you looked at a lot, or is that just no?
Yeah, it's just something that I really like. When I see people and say, oh, we have 9, it shouldn't be revenue per employee. It should be EBITDA or cash flow per employee. Let me rephrase that.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, revenue doesn't matter. But yeah, it's like, how many people are you managing? Because you know this, you run businesses. The hardest thing is that people are messy and they all have different goals. And it's like, it's hard to get 5 people to row the same way. It's even harder to get 55 people to row the same way.
Especially in businesses where the product is your people, right?
Correct.
Like in a tech company, your product is the product. It's technology. It can scale infinitely. But in services businesses, the product is the people.
Yep.
And if they're not performing well and they're not representing you well, your business does not do well.
Yeah, exactly. You don't have a good business. Exactly. So you have to. So that's the hardest part. Yeah, it's just you have a big army of people that all need to be on the same page. So,
do you think about AI at all? And if you do, does it scare you for your industry?
No, really. It's I think our industry, they have some like autonomous machines, but they're so freaking expensive that it's not probably AI can't do what people can do yet, especially in the physical world.
If you woke up tomorrow with an extra $100,000, what would you do with it?
In my business or just
in your business? Yeah, not personal. We could go personal.
Okay. If personal, I'm joining a golf club. But in my business, get more talent. I think that's just
what kind of talent?
Like growth talent. I really like my team. We have great people, but there's a difference between like a steady state employee and like a growth employee. I think they have 2 different characteristics. And so now we have steady state employees because when you buy a business, you PG it, you're scared, you got a lot of risk, you don't want it to go bad. So you're like, let me just get people in here who are going to do their job. And we've done an awesome job at that. And now I would like some people across the aisle or across the cubicle that are like, let's move fast and break shit because we want to grow fast. So I'm
just thinking about this right now. Do you know who Brian Sealing is on Twitter?
No, never heard of him.
He was a searcher. He lives in Tampa. He just bought a business. They do commercial kitchen appliance repair and maintenance. I have to be careful about saying that because I used to say hood cleaning, and that's not what they do. But it's even worse. You're about to find out. I invested in his business. He was a searcher. He needed some gap funding in order to close. And so we're invested in the business. And for me, the thesis is very similar to what you said, red state, growing, but it's also a business that you're not automating that stuff out. Right. But he's in Tampa. I should introduce you to.
Yeah.
I think it'd be a good time for you. Yeah. So a lot of real estate guys on Twitter look at business guys and think, oh man, that'd be so awesome to have a business just kicking off cash flow that I could grow and fund my lifestyle. And a lot of business guys on Twitter look at real estate and think, man, it'd be nice to have just an asset that grows about with inflation and kicks off steady cash flows that I don't have to worry about. As you look at other industries, What industries are you jealous of right now?
I'm jealous of all the course guys, like the guys who make
Really?
the, yeah, man, they
Yeah,
print
that's
money. And
yeah,
like
they do.
everybody gives them shit on Twitter. I'm like, are you jealous?
They are.
Because they have a 95% margin. So like the guys who do it at scale, not just guys that sell one course for $500 or whatever, but like people who have found big audiences and have used their media to sell guides and courses and books and all that kind of stuff. The margin is just so high. Um,
Justin Welsh, Jay
yeah,
Klaus.
yeah, like those
Yeah,
guys, awesome. I'm like, I never shit on those people. I'm like, look, there's only one reason everybody's doing this. You can act like, oh, we're revitalizing America and all this shit. Like you're doing it to make money. And so it's great things that come along with it. Like I love being able to provide jobs for sure. But if I didn't get paid to do it, I wouldn't be doing it. And if I got paid like a W-2 worker, I wouldn't do it either. So there's the main reason I do it is for the economic incentive. And so those guys have maximized that. So to me, in the game of business, not necessarily game of life or whatever, but in the game of business, they're winning.
very well said. I do have a question for you though.
Yep.
I view it the same way. And I'm always curious, at what point do they flip from being looked at as like a wannabe to a legit, and we could say guru, but whatever you want to say. Because there are like a lot of people who are grinding out there and you look at them, they're like, oh, they're selling a course. Oh, wow, they have a cleaning company that they started 2 years ago. And what's that? There's a guy on Twitter. I can't remember his name right now. He's 23 and he started a cleaning company and he's, I'll show you how to get to $60,000 a month. And you're like, this guy's selling a course. But there's a guy who, I think he sells window washing squeegees or something, a course
Yep.
yeah, that guy started with a really small business and now his main business is selling courses. And you look at him, you're like, oh, dude, that guy's legit. Like he's an industry leader.
It. Yeah.
Like at what point does it flip? You know what I mean? I've always just been, anyways,
I don't know. I think it's consistency and the way you sell, right? Like I ultimately think that really good ones are really good content marketers. They'll give you everything in the course for free. And if the course is good, you'll get all this value just piecemeal. And it's, hey, I'll give you every chapter of the book just 1 month at a time. And then, maybe 3 chapters in, you're like, I want to buy the whole book. And if it's valuable, then I think they start to scale that. So I just think that the really good ones are just like giving away value after value. And the bad ones are like, hey, I made $100,000. Here's how you can too, buy my courses. That's not how you do it. You've got to give people all the tools to make their $100,000. And then you package it up as best as you can and in a way that's digestible and teachable. And you sell that.
What keeps you up at night?
Nothing. I sleep great.
Okay. Let me ask it a different way. In your business, what are the biggest threats that you see over the next 5 years?
Yeah, we have, I think in the facility space, there's always concern about your customers because they're sticky and because you get so few and you try to grow within those customers, you end up having some significant customer concentration risk over time because you get in with let's say a big healthcare facility that's like all across the state, and you get in with them and you start growing your business with them. Next thing you know, they could be 40%, 30% of your revenue, right? And you're just growing. And of course, you're never going to say no when they call you for more business. But then when they're 30% of your revenue, what happens when they pay 2 weeks late? What happens when they face tough financial times? Like that's like probably the scariest thing to me.
Yeah, I have some stories on that. I'll tell you someday. But all right, my 2 favorite questions now. Is there a person on Twitter that you hope to be in 5 years?
No. No. I want to grow my business, but I enjoy doing a lot of other things. And maybe it's because it's just people don't want to hear it on Twitter, but the Twitter crew is so business focused and I just never want to be like that. There's so many more aspects to life.
Let me ask it a different way. Because now that you've said that, I have somebody in my mind, but who do you think's doing it the best? Of the personalities on Twitter, if you had to choose, right? Who do you think's playing the best game?
Gurley seems like he has fun. He enjoys his life. And he gives a lot of business content, but it's not super serious. It's not super deep. Yeah. And I like that.
I would have thought you said Be Sure.
I do like Brent. Brent doesn't post though.
But that's what I'm saying is if in 5 years you're like Brent, where you
Oh yeah,
post,
Brent.
but you're
Oh, Brent's awesome.
successful, right? Like,
Yeah. Yeah, Brent. I really like Brent. I really like what he's done. He has a lot of good relationships. That's yeah, you know what? Now that you mention that, I do what I like most about Brent is he has really good, strong relationships with a lot of people. And I feel like I'm starting to build good relationships with a lot of people. And that has been the most valuable thing that I've gotten from Twitter. More than I haven't really sold anything. I probably could, but I just
dude,
haven't.
when I got the Main Street invitation or whatever for this year's Main Street, and I see Chris Munn's name on the top line, I'm like, what the freak? How is Chris Munn on the top line? I love you to
Yeah.
death. I think you're amazing,
Yeah.
right?
I don't know how I'm on the top line
But
either.
but I'm like, holy crap, he's on the top line. And I think that speaks to your ability to genuinely connect with people quickly, right?
Yeah.
And you're not just chasing the views or the clout.
Yeah.
I also think there's an aspect of, and I hope you don't take offense if you do. I'll
I know
edit
what
this
you're
out.
about to say, and you're
There
correct.
aren't many black people on SMB Twitter. You know what I mean? So it's
Yeah, it's
crap.
not many black. Yeah, not really at all.
Not at all,
Not a lot
right?
of women.
And so it makes sense. That dude, that's the bigger thing that surprises me. Like black people as a percentage of the population, 13, 14%. So I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
I get it, underrepresentation. But
Women
women,
are 50.
what? And there's no big women accounts. It's
Yeah.
just, it's mind boggling to me. I've been like seeking it out and trying to find some good ones. And there are some decent ones on there, but anyways, it's weird.
Yeah, no, it's a prominent Twitter person DM me, I won't say who it is, and asked me how they could get more women at their events, more women and minorities at their events.
That's cool.
And yeah, it was cool. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
I gave them a very long, very detailed answer about how to do it. And I said, you have to show up for these people. You have to make them feel like they're welcome because no matter what, you can say, hey, it's open to everyone. But this is going to be a bad example because this is not the SMB Twitter crowd, but I'm just using it as an example.
Yeah.
If the Nazis one day just changed their thing and like, hey, we're open to everybody. Like, we're not fucking coming. So like you have to like make efforts let's just say even the Germans, right? Like the Germans in 1948 are like, hey, black people, Jewish people, come on back. They're going to be like, no, we're not doing that at all because we don't feel like we're a part of this. And it's not even about the hateful stuff. It's just we don't see our representation anywhere over there. And so I told the person, like, it's a long game. Like, you have to champion women. You have to advocate for them. You have to think about them when you're like, who should I interview on my podcast? Who should I invite to my event? Who should I invite as a speaker? I'm like, it's a really long game. And you have to be willing to do that. And if you're not, then you're going to get accused of, hey, yeah, I saw you had this event, but it was all white guys. So what the fuck? And so those are your choices. And the person was, that sounds too hard.
Even if you don't feel that way, right? Like even if you're the least racist person or you're the most accepting person,
correct.
If you don't architect an environment for people to feel comfortable, then
then they're not comfortable. Yeah, and it's not anything. It's not nefarious. Like I'm like, if there's all white people, all white men at your events, I don't think that was a nefarious thing that you did. But I will say you're gonna get criticized. Like when you post pictures and it's 70, you're like, oh, we had this event for business owners and it's 65 white guys. Like you're gonna face the criticism. So if you don't want that, you got to do the work.
All right, here's my last question for you. What are you obsessed with right now?
I've been really into like Japanese culture stuff. I don't know why. Yeah, like
really? Go on.
Yeah, super fascinating. Like even like business culture, they are so disciplined and organized, and maybe not fun, but like we went to this. Me and my wife went to this omakase place in New York.
I don't know what that is. What's omakase?
Like they just bring out plates of sushi. You don't get the order.
Okay.
Right. Like, just bringing it out. Like they're making it right there. There's no stove. It's just like a guy and fish. It's like fish, a knife, and a guy. That's it.
That's rad.
And I'm just watching the guy and he's so disciplined and so exacting. And it just fascinated me because Americans aren't like that at all. We're just like, McDonald's just throws anything on your fucking burger and hands it to you. So it was I'm very fascinated with their culture and how
Is it the organization? Is it the discipline?
Like it's the organization and the discipline and the ability to, like, they're the only big country that really has very little American influence. Like Japanese, like when I went to Japan, it was hard to find people that spoke English. And
Hmm.
I've been to like some, I've been to Sapa, Vietnam. I've been to like Phnom Penh, Cambodia. And like, you can find tons of people that speak English. And in
Hmm.
Tokyo, wasn't a ton. And so
Really?
they've kept America, they might have some beef with us for a couple reasons, but
What's interesting about them is they have for a long period of time had this policy against immigration.
correct.
And I won't say, I don't know a better way to say it. That's just, they've
Yeah,
limited
that's
immigration.
true. Yeah,
And it's only been recently, I want to say even this year, that they've started to loosen the restrictions on that because they're having net
yeah, because they don't
growth.
have
Like
any babies.
they're not having families, they're not having babies. So
Yeah,
that will be interesting to see if that
if
has
they
any
can keep their
effect
culture
on.
that strong. Yeah,
Mhm.
I mean, it'll be hard to keep like the Japanese traditions that strong when you let in a New Zealander or Australian or Indian person. Like
Right.
it'll be hard, and that's part of what we struggle with in America, right? We have this hodgepodge of culture, and
Hmm.
it clashes sometimes, right? But yeah, it's very cool to see. Yeah, I've just been diving into that kind of stuff. It's been cool to me.
That's rad, man. Japanese culture. What's the best way or place for people to find you? Is Twitter the best, or is there somewhere else you want people to find you?
The golf course is the best place to find me, but if not, give me on Twitter. It's
All
Chris
right.
X Munn on Twitter,
All right.
and yeah,
This is rad, man. Thank you for
thank you,
joining me.
man. I appreciate
Appreciate it.
it. I always like talking to you.